Oh my God. The iron, nothing worse than Microsoft people not being able to have computers when they need them. How you doing? I hope you're having. I have my good button, and we're gonna. We got some good stuff. What's happening right now? It's around different, all these little details. We're like aircraft and controllers. Cool to see us start some planes and rolling.
Pierre, I'm having a hard time
cool stuff.
hearing you.
Pardon? In our thing today, and so I don't know why it's choppy. This is what we're saying. It's a little slow, and it's probably our cotton pick. Yeah, it's very slow. Yeah, to our service provider. So it looks like our service probably having some today. Just end and start all over again, or try to redo it. So let's see if it goes. And I apologize for the choppiness. Oh, appears over there, or maybe that's like Echo Barney in the yard that cutting my face. I don't know what to say. We just tested it before, so I'm reluctant to make any change. Folks on, waiting to talk. I think Marcio.
It's really choppy, Pierre. Maybe you could remove the camera. Let's see if give some bandwidth for the audio. Just a suggestion. For the audience, it looks okay on my side. Yeah.
Let's see. Fixes this thing. Of course, now that Pure better, Angus.
Like from my life of pre-sales, this is technical pre-sales and technical challenges that we see on our daily life when presented to the customers. We need the demo gods to help us here. But looks like I am on the show. So hi everyone. I'm waiting for my host here to ask me questions.
Hilarious.
Let's see if he's back.
All right. Well,
what we got here.
Well, Mr. Martin, you sound a little better? No?
All kind right. Of sloppy, yeah. but a little better.
All right. So why don't you chat a little bit about your trip last week? I know that you had some time out at where was it? It's in sunny Palm Springs, California, right? It's in sunny Palm Springs. So yeah, Palm Springs. So what were you out there doing, my friend?
So I was there playing golf. And then I also had an event to attend. Right? So, no, just kidding. I did actually play golf with some colleagues there, but for the records, I'm terrible on it. But just enjoyed the sport. But yeah, I attended again this year Field Service USA event in Palm Springs. That's my second time on that event. It's it was like, for those who don't know me, my name is Marcio Decat. I'm a global black belt with Microsoft, and although the title is fancy on global black belt, what that actually means, I'm just someone who has a deep expertise on Dynamics 365, more specific on field service, and I support the rest of Microsoft sales organizations to help them then sell and deliver value for our customers. As well, another thing that I do is to learn from my customers and my sales team, and give that feedback back to product group and try to influence the product in a direction that will be meaningful for our customers. Spring is a great place to be, to listen to different customers from different industries that has challenges around field service, learn what they're looking for. So the event was, again, a great event, not by the volume of attending the event, but by the quality of conversations that we had over there. So it was a pleasure to be there. What the market is looking for that. So Pierre is not on the call. Let me share a
No,
little
I'm here.
bit that we
I'm here,
did
buddy.
during the
I'm here,
event.
buddy.
Was we hosted? Oh, you're here. Got it.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we co-hosted with for a part for a round table, and I would say that that was a really good experience. We guided the conversation, we guided the subject, but not necessarily interfere on this, where a customer could talk about themselves, about how they, what's their current state on field service, as well as how they are thinking and incorporating new technologies like connected field service or artificial intelligence, and creating more like a connected experience with their customers as well. So this was pretty good on that. And we also have our booth, and for being in a Microsoft booth, it's actually fun. You have like 5 minutes to learn who is the customer, build some sort of relationship, understand why they are there, and inside those 5 minutes, find one snippet of product that will increase desirability and curiosity of them. So it was a fun event. You were missed there, Pierre, for sure.
Yeah, I've gone to a bunch of those. Those are fun. Those are enjoyable. Because you kind of, it's that ability in any of these kind of trade show events to kind of learn a lot of stuff. Kind of go around, talk to your friends that are work for the competitors, and kind of touch base in terms of what's new. The thing I really always enjoy about that event is although vendors sponsor it and we have a little bit of opportunity to present a little, but the majority of all of the presentations and the keynotes are really, and the facilitated discussions are really done by customers. And so some of the largest service operations in the world are there, some just ginormous companies. And a bunch of you go, hey, that's our customer. That's our customer. Like, I love that stuff. And you kind of go like, hey, spot the customer in the keynote. So, somebody like Siemens shows up and talks about their service operation, global service operations. And so it's just kind of one of those trade show events. And it happens here in the United States this time of year in the spring. And then the Field Service Connect is in Europe later in the fall. And then they have some industry ones too that go in a little deeper, like healthcare and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Really cool. Now, when you were there last week, you had a little bit of a session with customers, and I thought it'd be good maybe to talk a little bit about that. You had a little presentation that you had shown.
I do have. Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second here to share my
Sure.
screen on this.
Sure.
But yeah, well, as I said, we hosted a lunch with some customers, including Siemens was one of them that were there. And what we try to do is just be like a facilitator for a healthy conversation between them. So I bet many of you who are watching me presenting about field service saw this slide before, but this is just a way to frame a conversation, right? So what we did is we see field service into three. They started the end-to-end story of field service in three major buckets, if you will. Um, to have like this end-to-end field service operation story, I think how it started is challenges around managing the intake and demand who is working, where the work comes from, where does a work order gets created, and that answer is different if you ask for different customers and different industries on that. And the second bucket is about like manage a field service operations, scheduling, dispatching, inventory management, knowledge management. And finally, the last bucket is more about empower the field technician, the frontline workers who really want to empower them to have a better life and be more successful in the work. And how can we empower them to deliver exceptional service and be successful?
Yeah.
But as you know, everybody's talking about AI and Chat GPT, and we went there. Even if that was not the primary subject of the conversation, was interested to see that the customers are so interested on trying to understand how they can benefit and extract value from AI that the conversations naturally led to that area. So what we have in that event was basically this, like we interrupted their lunch three times on the during the lunch to frame a conversation about like how do you think about like moving beyond break fix model and embracing technologies and unlocking data and AI and machine learning and intelligence from that data, and also how they're thinking about the connected experience as well as not only with machine solution and machine field service and machine CRM, but as well as connecting that experience with their end customers as well, and exploring that conversation. So that framework was very interesting, and hearing from them, and like again, we try to do not interfere but actually learn and create a space where they could talk about it.
I love this this image, this discussion, like the way that you're framing up field service as a whole, because it's really there's so many different aspects to service operations, but to be able to broadly go, we get some data in, we act on it, we organize the data, and then we act on it. Like it's that kind of ingestion model that is very linear and helps people really kind of categorize and understand where different aspects of the system, kind of work for them. I love it.
Yeah, I think like when you think about like in intake, it's something like that. This is I think I draw this in a whiteboard 2 years ago, and I keep using this. But it's actually a way to have a conversation with customers, like because they have different challenges on their industry, but it's basically seeing where does the demand of work comes from when you think about creating work orders. Like of course we see field service as that extension of service, but every time you need to dispatch someone, you need that physical, that hands-on engagement with an equipment or with a customer. That's where field service come in place. But usually the demand comes somewhere before. Like it is
Sure.
a post-sale process that will require some installation. It is a customer case that initiate on a whatever channel of preference of the customer. And very often we have those little things here that we talk a lot about, like an IoT connection on that,
Sure.
and or a machine learning model that's giving some predictive result of a predictive model, or even some external systems, like as multiple customers they already have their ERP in place, and we need to the work orders or the calendar of preventive maintenance is managed outside field service, but we need to connect that story to help them streamline regardless where demand's coming from. How do we organize this story, and you can follow the same business process independent of where the demand's coming from on that. So it was a great conversation.
Nice. Nice. I have some stuff I want to talk about on the IoT stuff because I've got some cool news I want to share with everybody about the work that my team is working on and what we're doing. So keep. I love this. It is a way. Another way to think about it is I've always thought about it like channels. Like we talk in customer service about channels. Like you come from the website or you come from service support cases. Or once something gets installed, we always want to open a case, with the service department to check the installation or whatever. There's so many different ways that um, you know work gets generated, and I love this perspective. I love this perspective because, as you said, it can go from a lot of different systems. We have customers that generate their, you know, um, their work orders directly from their ERP system. They skip cases. Other companies, it goes through a case because they want to have eyes on it first, and they want to deflect maybe the on-site service by maybe remote assist, before they send somebody out. And so they, want to enable customer self-service, and so they use
I
remote
had many
assist.
conversations on that scenario that I just described
Yeah,
on, like, in multiple cases, I think it's worth customer thinking about using the case entity before the work order, because you can avoid, there is situations where you can avoid rolling out a truck. And I think like
yeah,
connected devices enable that, like that pause and say, can I solve that problem remotely? Like, can I maybe educate
yeah,
the customer with a proper knowledge based article so the customer can configure and fix the problem on their side? Can
yeah.
I send a remote command, right? Like, or reset a firmware or update some properties on an external asset that's connected, and really avoid rolling out that truck.
Yeah. Yeah, I one the great video last year that was shown, which is really one of the coolest videos about remote assist by HP. They're they have a service offering that they have that leverages remote assist, and in certain classes of their printers, they're these very expensive high-end digital printers, not like the one that that sits in our
Yeah,
office, but one that where they're high volume, printing books, that kind of stuff, printing giant color manuals and printing thousands at a time. Those are like $1 million printers, really expensive. The way that HP sells those is by the page, basically, is how they meter that, and
like a
it's sold by the
service.
page. So it's in HP's interest to make sure that thing is running all the time and is, working at the top, notch level. So there was a service experience they have where, of course, printers, they always have, there's a toner cartridge that needs to be replaced, or paper jams. They're just a mechanical device. There's no way around it. And so you're always going to end up with, things where man, this thing isn't working right, and I got an error code, and I'm the customer standing in front of it. I don't want a service technician to come out. I don't want to call support and wait in a queue. I want to just get this thing fixed right now. And I know I have some spare parts that came along with this, service parts and serviceable items. They're engineered. The printers are engineered like that. And so yeah, that video they put on the HoloLens, and it include, you're right into talking to the help desk at HP. And so they're remotely assisting you, looking at the error code. They're able to see the telemetry on their side. The agent is, and they're not just some generic call center agent. They're they're a technician, but they're just not standing in front of the machine. They know that particular product very well, so they can help the customer through troubleshooting and guide them through. Hey, you need to replace this particular item. And so that kind of all goes through a case format, to manage and remotely, so I don't have to send a technician out. And
Yeah.
even if I,
Even on
would
small
depot up
scales,
proper, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So
I like you mentioned an example of HP, which has like a complex, heavy, expensive equipment and one expert on the side that assists them as well. But there are other use cases for small, I would say,
yeah,
more affordable, cheaper devices. Like I remember one POC that I was working with a company that they do like catering systems and smart vending machines across the globe. And they asked me to, Marcio, I have some smart coffee machines and here access to their APIs. And we want to develop a proof of concept on connected field service around those coffee machines. So I
it wasn't
explored the,
Contoso coffee, was it?
no, that inspired Contoso Coffee, but was not Contoso Coffee. But actually, that real use case inspired the Contoso Coffee story. But I connected with the coffee machines,
Just
but unfortunately, the only data that the coffee machine was giving was not like real troubleshooting error codes, but they have some
sure,
interesting thing coming back. It was the size of the trash bin compartment and how many cups you have, if you will, inside the trash bin compartment. And that was basically the only information that the machine was giving back. But even though with this tiny amount of data, when I asked them how many times they dispatch a technician to fix a coffee machine, and all they have to do is to empty the trash bin, and actually there was significant roll trucks just for that one
sure.
reason. So what we envision is like a customer
Yeah,
call, like your problem with this machine is connected. Like I can see like maybe the problem is just how to empty your trash bin and avoid rolling out the
yeah.
truck. remotely you can create a diagnostic. Although you can't address the problem, you create a diagnose that maybe you ask just the customer, like this, here are some instructions on how to empty the trash bin. So there are multiple use cases if you get creative on those scenarios.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
Another one that was interesting on the conversation was a customer that was talking about they have this old equipment that it's not connected with the internet. They have some error codes and a panel, a monitor that gives some diagnosis of that. What they did was considering the possibility of adding a camera, like an Azure camera, that actually is monitoring the analog devices of that old equipment, and then you can train the camera to read those panels and generate alerts on that. And I thought it was super creative, the way of connecting an old device that's disconnected with some modern device and creating a connected field service story on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way vision, I've been paying a lot of attention to Tesla's AI initiatives and changes. And it's, a lot of the sensor now, they're really moving over to using vision. A lot of early on, it was all about the sensors and ultrasonic sensors. And it's really amazing how much AI is better at just ingesting vision as opposed to a lot more sensor data. So yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff.
Also saw some good innovation coming from the partners, like our Rasco friends. I don't know if it is the same company, it's the same owners, but I don't recall if it's still at Rasco brand or not. But they created, Ivan created like a pod, like it's a small puck that has a Bluetooth signal and a QR code on it. And we were chatting about the possibilities of what we can do for that, like from a security route that you have security passing with your phone and registered, like on the work order, if I need to inspect multiple areas and I'm comparing that if I'm actually in that physical place. Another envision is you can have like a puck like that connected on an asset, and maybe you can trigger like a power app based on when you're close to the device, or scan the QR code to get more information. So lots of potential with such a simple device, like a Bluetooth connection with an ID that can run some code on it. Like a lot of food for thoughts on that one too.
Yeah, Ben's in the, hey Ben, he's the mobile Ben, he's with Resco. So yeah, we're gonna have Resco. We got to have those guys on the show. We have they're just like I said, just a fantastic partner. I've always loved Resco. We built back before Microsoft days, when I was at Wensoft, we used their tool. It goes way back, and so their stuff is so advanced. Their sync engine is still, I'm just my bias. I think it's better than anybody else's.
I also got to thank Rascal because I think I got hooked up on field service because of them. Like that side story where we were in a Rascal Next conference and I stayed locked in an elevator 45 minutes with you and Ben Vollmer. And I think that's when you guys brainwashed me and say, come to the field service family. And that was
That's right. That's right. I remember that. Yeah, we went. Here's the irony. I got to tell this story. We went to a Resco conference in Atlanta. A bunch of people from Microsoft showed up, and a bunch of people in the community. And it was great. We were just learning stuff and hanging out. And then we're done with the conference, and we're gonna go down to the lobby and like go eat lunch or something like that. We get on the elevator. So there's like 10 people in the elevator that was really meant for like 13 people. So it was. Yeah. So we get on the elevator and we're all in there kind of joking and stuff like that. And it kind of gives us one of those kind of things. And then it went down one floor, and then some kids got on with their parents. Remember? Yeah. Some kids get on with their parents. And so the door shuts, and then it goes down, and it just stops. Doesn't go anywhere.
Between the floors.
Yeah. So it's between floors. We're all like, okay, well, so, it was just that awkward moment. And I think, like you said, we were in there for like 45 minutes. It was and we were all like, oh, come on.
There's a connect to the elevator. There is an IoT alert saying that we are here. Does anybody know we are locked here? Right? Like,
and so it was. Yeah, it was the whole, we lived the whole life cycle of a use case that day of the whole, what happens when an elevator breaks? How long is it going to take for a tech? What do you do when you pick the phone up? And it was like the hotel guy came in and he was trying to open the door and he's like, just wait, and then they called the elevator company. And I think ultimately what ended up happening is somebody, wasn't it,
They call
I'm just
911.
somebody said, because there was a gal in there, she was having a medical emergency. If you say you're having a medical emergency, the fire department will come. And remember, it was the fire department that came and fixed the elevator for us so we could all get out. They beat the technician
Yeah.
there. And then when the technician showed up a couple minutes later, we were all like, well, so what's your mobile device are you using, and how are everybody was like glomming around the guy, asking him about his work order and
Let me
how it
see your work
dispatched.
order. That's true. Like I'm always curious about any field technician like that show up to my house. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so funny. It's the other part I remember about that, which is we've all been on this call. There's the phone in the elevator. Remember, someone picks the phone up. It's like speakerphone. You push the button. It's on speakerphone. We're stuck in an elevator. And where are you calling from? An elevator. What building are you in? Well, I don't really know exactly what building we're in. I'm not from this town.
Yeah.
We're at this hotel. I don't know where it's at. What the street address is. They're asking all the wrong questions to ask a panicked group of people stuck in an elevator. Like that good old customer service where you go and you give them your customer ID. Let me transfer you, and you get over to the other department. And they ask, and your name is, and what's your customer ID? It was hilarious.
I can pivot on this from like every time I have a field technician or a friend on a first line worker, and I have an opportunity to ask them what tool they are using, what they're happy with.
Yeah.
So a couple of months ago, I have a company fixing my TV here. Like it's a big TV on the wall, and they show up to replace the screen. So there was a couple of hustles. Like the first guy with the work order, he arrived alone, and he realized that he could not be alone to do the work. So they book it again. And when they arrived, like, it's not the first time fixed rate is gone at that time, right? But when they arrived, they never opened a TV like that. It was the first time. And the way to capture knowledge, they really opened their YouTube on their phone, and they were asking like how to replace the screen of TV model, etc.
Sure.
And I look and say, don't you have any knowledge base, any instructions or not? And I said, basically no. So that's how far behind some first line workers are left behind on that. Like it's just like you go to this place, you go do this work, you figure it out by yourself, and no support on that. So and that was lots of conversations on what I would say was that second bucket on the managed field services. It's about like think about how AI would help them on managing knowledge base, on scheduling, dispatching, and on that. So we had lots of conversations, although we don't have any officially public announced yet about how does a copilot for field service is going to look like. We already know that those are potential areas that we should be looking at to invest is around like knowledge base and assisting not only the dispatcher but also the field technician to succeed on that. And when I think about that YouTube scenario, I think like how those large language models could solve that, like even before sending the technician. Like you need to book 2 technicians for that specific TV. Like ChatGPT could help, or technology like Copilot on that sense, as well as the.
I know it's a question I'm sorry. So I know it's a question we get asked a lot, and it's one of the things I did want to talk to you about, and just kind of the whole discussion that we're having right now about the AI components of field service, and in the customer service platform, there's Copilot and a bunch of stuff that's getting released, and kind of the question, where's field service? Like, where are we in that journey, do you think, right now? The field service product itself, the Dynamics field service product.
I think you got to take this question and see more holistic. There is this commitment with Microsoft of adding Copilot for all different personas, business personas that we interact with our platform. So there are things of Copilot and AI that are embedded, I would say, that the platform level that goes for Power Platform and for the whole Dynamics community. And there is a couple of things announced for our directly family of products. I do have a slide for that. that we're seeing like already announced, like Copilot for sales, for marketing. And I think field service goes into this category of service. And we, it's easy to see how large language models will help like in communication with the customer, and even enhancing both communications, like helping the agents having better communication with the customer, as well as having the customer be better served by self-service bots or virtual agents, if you will. So I don't have any official answer about what Microsoft is doing for a Copilot for field service. What I can share is we are doing, like we are investing on this,
Yeah.
and I wish I could share all the ideas, but I don't know how many of my ideas or the conversation that I'm having with other people will become
Yeah.
reality or not. But I can say what I have been exploring since day one that we saw the announcements with OpenAI. And I think I saw tremendous value on using large language model to assist on knowledge base articles and knowledge base management, and as well as um, ChatGPT is really good of understanding language and that are unstructured conversations, if you will, and structuralizing that in a way that would be meaningful for data. So I can see things like, give me a step. That was a real question that I asked. Like I asked, like, what's the step-by-step instructions to like replace a belt on on an air compressor model XYZ? And ChatGPT found the information of a compressor that was built in 1968 with instructions on how to change the belt. And I was doing a demonstration. I said, "Damn, too many steps. Like, doesn't fit well my storytelling demonstration." And I asked, "Can you condense this in no more than 10 meaningful steps?" And when I did that, I realized that the level of instructions and the ability of ChatGPT to summarize this in meaningful
Yeah.
sentences of chunks of data was actually really efficient on that. And then I can see things like, could we make that conversation become a service task, like a step instructions? Uh,
There you
could
go.
we read manuals or internal documents of our customers, and instead of just using public data and provide like trustful instructions on how to perform some tasks?
Right.
And I think the answer is yes for those scenarios, and this is where areas where I would like to see our product
Yeah.
engineers investing more.
Yeah, I think, the thing to think about it from the perspective of a Microsoft product, a first party product, there is this like two-step or three-step process you might want to think about. First, the tech has to be available, like ChatGTP and the OpenAI large language model. That stuff has to be available. And you can see, to your point, like I can take ChatGTP and point it to a web source and say, summarize this, and it's really great at doing that. Or deserialize stuff in an email, like take this entire document and give me all the part numbers that are in that, and then put it in a table and make it a JSON object. It's really great at taking something that's super unstructured, like a PDF file, and giving you the bill of material in the right, like you're saying, like here's the actual steps. Where the thing to think about with Microsoft is there's this extra step we have to go through, which is to make it an ethical AI component that is not only here is what I think the information is, but go check it out for yourself, because here's the links where I found that information. And I have to make sure that that also complies with a bunch of privacy rules, and the data I'm passing through isn't, super secret or have other sort of policies that my company might be violating. And so, Microsoft is really great at taking that core tech and putting a wrapper around it. And you can see that in the first, iterations that we had, where it's kind of all hands on deck from a dev team to get the stuff out for sales and for customer service. And because field service layers our solutions on top of that, like you say, it's like we don't have the exact, here's the screens that it's going to look like that we can share right now, but I can tell everybody we're seriously working through all of this with a lot of customers right now in private preview to nail that experience. So, it's truly meets that kind of expectation that you'd have as a customer of Microsoft, that it's not, because right now we have a lot of friends, a bunch of folks that are on this that are really well capable of taking a chat bot and building one of these. And like I was saying, because the system has such power to be able to take our current chatbot thing and pass it through, take the text file and point it to the customer records and pass it through and create a summary of a work order, for example, and put it in the description as a work order summary. It's that kind of stuff that tool can do really well. And can right now folks can build that kind of stuff, but the kind of Microsoft branded version of that stuff will look right at then our structured metadata layer. And we have to optimize those prompts appropriately inside of the system. And it's really cool stuff. I mean, I love it. It's
There is
really,
a
really
major
cool.
difference from what we are doing versus what our competition is doing in terms of connecting their products with OpenAI APIs, because they're
Yeah.
basically connecting their product with directly OpenAI
Yeah.
APIs. What we are doing is our products talking actually with our Azure protected, if you will, version
Right.
of OpenAI, where we can, to your point, provide an extra layer of security and privacy,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they can rely on their own private knowledge base that they want. They don't want to share that with the
Right.
public. They can't share it. It's that
Right.
private IP on that.
Yeah. So that's as I'm talking to a bunch of different customers about this, that's the thing that I think of all the time is that, you want to rush in and kind of go, all right, let's just build this. And it's like, okay, maybe, but there's a lot of things you haven't thought of yet that our team has really working through. And, if we could wait 6 months here, this different story, so
Yeah.
I think it's really, really interesting.
I also had conversation about like I know ChatGPT and large language models is what everybody is talking about nowadays. But during the Field Service USA event, I also have good conversation about what we already have invested on AI today on the platform that already exists on the platform for a couple of times. One of them was around like scheduling and dispatching. Of course, scheduling and dispatching and the algorithm of scheduling, there is a lot, it's just not just AI. It has a lot of algorithm trying to solve the sales travelman problem. But what I remember talking to one customer about our suggestions around estimated time versus real duration of the work order. Like for an hour or two, for those who doesn't know, like there is on the work order, we have like your estimated duration of the work order that we can compare with the actual duration, with the real duration of each work order.
Yeah.
And through time, we can learn about that process and make suggestions and suggest that like maybe this type of instance, this work order templates that you estimate that is taking 2 hours, in fact, it's taking 3 hours to complete. And making those adjustments using AI to make suggestions on those adjustments, we actually help customer increase the productivity of field service and whatever metrics they use for measure productivity.
Yeah, I wanted to share a couple of these right out of the box. Like what is existing today in the field service platform that we have that is AI driven? And these are really interesting conversations because there's a couple of things that are observations like socially that I think of like these have been in, and when I talk to folks about telemetry, it's like they're not as used as much as you'd think they would be. And it's because a lot of people haven't really thought it to that next level. And so this is one of them as you're talking about right here. This is a predictive work order duration. So it's looking at work orders here. There's a report. It's called predictive duration. Here's my work orders for today. I'm the dispatcher. This is like getting tomorrow's newspaper today. It's like getting tomorrow's like stock prices today. It's telling you, I'm predicting that this particular work order for Blue Yonder, you have it at 7.5 hours. I think it's going to take 8 hours and 50 minutes for you to do that. You're going to be over time. That person is not going to complete it. I have a 59% confidence. And here's the factors that go into that. It's looking at the individuals. It's looking at the customer location, the type of work that happens, the description of the errors and stuff like that. And the system learns over time, as Marcio said. And then so it's able to then look at that. Like, so now I can like, as a dispatcher go, that guy's going to be late for his next appointment. I was like, if it takes that long, fine. But I want to make sure that next customer is not going to be waiting around for an hour and a half. Right. So this is that kind of before it even happens, the system is looking at all the data that relates all the factors and scoring that work order with a score like that, which is really, really cool. That's a
And,
really
and
cool one.
scheduling is complex. Like scheduling alone itself is a mathematical
Yeah,
super complex problem on that. So trying to increase productivity in scheduler sometimes is removing inches of pieces that together
yeah,
combined will help you to get that
yeah.
productivity on that. So I think I at least from the engagements that I am involved in, I think customers are very excited about this and their ability to have an AI model that helps them, that gives insights on where they need to make adjustments on that. Because if
Yeah.
you are not looking for those adjustments, it's difficult to find. That's why an AI is very handful on finding the insights for you on those.
Finding those insights. One of the other ones, and this is a good example of what you were just talking about right there, which is using that predictive model to around traffic. So we're looking at adjusting the travel time based on the time of the day. And if anybody's visited the Microsoft campus, driving from, building from the where the Halo guy is. What's his name? The Spartan. Spartan. What's that
Yeah.
guy's name? The Halo. What's his name? Sergeant. Anyways, I forget his name. What's
Damn,
the guy's name?
I'm not a Halo player.
Driving from the
I was on
campus
their
of
call.
Microsoft out to the airport. Pardon?
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Halo, and I say I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. What's it? Because we have a big statue of the Halo guy.
Okay, yeah.
Anyways, I forget the guy's name. If and I played Halo. I have Halo. I play it all the
Laughing
time.
here. Well, the reason I'm
It's
laughing here, I'm laughing by
Master
nature.
Chief. There you
Oh
go.
no,
Oh, idiot. I'm such an idiot. Master Chief. There's a big giant statue of Master Chief in the customer experience center. You go get your picture taken next to Master Chief. Come on. Trevor's like, come on, Pierre, you're a moron. Anyways, so to go from there to the airport, that is, it's only like 20 miles. So it takes only 20 minutes to get there, right? But if you go at like 7 in the morning or at 5 in the afternoon, it takes a lot longer. So if you can predict the amount of time that it takes throughout the day, you can get a more accurate schedule. So it's not necessarily reducing the time or making this particular person more productive. So this is one where we took Brandon, gave him the same set of work orders, and all these locations are going back and forth between two locations or these different work orders. And then when you add the predictive model, it actually shows more time because it's going, yeah, actually this trip here at 12:30 here is going to take not 7 minutes, but it's going to take 20 minutes to get there. So what that gives me is not just the whole I'm shrinking the time. I'm just more accurate with the time.
and
I'm
that
able to
look
meet
at
my
that connected
customers
experience,
better.
right? Like, and how do you align customer expectations with that? Like, if the customer is waiting, if you want to provide
Yeah,
near real time experience, like an Uber experience, like Track My Technician, which
yeah,
is an amazing feature that we have, but the customer knows like there is a technician arrive in the 10 minutes. Like how to create that good customer experience? You need
right,
precision to do that. Like it's not
right,
only Track My Technician alone. We're not
right.
going to do this work if you're not calibrating well your estimated schedule on that.
Yeah, and I think about this all the time that so much of our driving for a lot of our folks is around productivity and utilization. We often miss that other part, which is like actually meeting a customer's expectation that customers have choices, and when I can improve that experience in the service that they deliver, then obviously we're going to have a much better brand
As Nick
experience and
coming here, we're trying to solve the 8 hours cable company service window, right? Like
yeah.
I came from Brazil. Like Brazil is hard on this. Like the guy literally says, like, I'll be in a house tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And if you don't
Yeah,
show up, they don't show up. Like if you are not waiting for them, they are not going to do the service, and they can't give you a
it's
procedure.
It's really funny because I know when we first started, with Dynamics at Microsoft, almost what is it, 8 years ago now, almost. Um, that these were features that got added into our platform. So can we do time-based windows? Can we say, Mr. Customer, let me give you an AM or PM or between 9 and 2? Can your system do that? We get asked that all the time, and of course, the system can do that. but then you always follow up. That consultant in you, like that can't. I got to say this. Like, why are you doing that? Can't you just be like, I can give you so much more than that? Like, that's
Yeah.
how it used to be. The new way is way better. Let me show you something cool that you can do to be much more accurate. I can tell your guys to be at a certain point in a certain time if I can better forecast their availability.
Yeah,
This is another one right here
which goes
that.
back as well of the when I think about the success of the technician. And so one thing is using AI to help you with that precision to get on site on the right time, and ensuring that the right person is on site, right, with the right tools,
Sure.
etc., and skills. But once that persona is on site, that field technician, to the example of my TV here, they were on site. They could be on time, but when they open the
Yeah.
TV, they don't know how to do it, the work, right? So
How do I fix this thing?
yeah, so there is things that when I think about AI and connectivity around field service. So first, there is a lot of potential around my knowledge base, as we talked before, and I have customers thinking about using bot. Like you gotta stretch the normal use of bots. When you think about bots
Mhm.
and virtual agents, it's most likely to deflect the human connection and putting the customer in touch with our customers, right? Their customers in touch with our customers. But I like to think about using bots to enhancing that field technician experience. Like what are the types of bots that a technician could have on their hand that will help them perform better at work? With that coffee company, we talk about like using bots to help them find parts. Like the bot knows the context, knows that you are working on that work order, knows the type of assets that you are working, and you can just like help me find a part. And the bot will be way more efficient in searching parts on warehouse and trying to find what's the best approach for that than the technician having to call a call center and asking for help on that. So that's the interesting use case that I would say on empower our technician. And the other one is about connected devices and IoT while performing a job. And if you stretch this to mixed reality, and the HoloLens that I have behind me, and it goes even beyond, is the example that I like to do is imagine that you have like a field technician that needs to reduce the pressure of a pipe, and what he needs to do is to physically turn an
Mhm.
equipment to regulate
Right.
a
The
valve.
dial. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does know how much he needs to turn on that? So if you have like a connector sensor who's measuring the pressure of the pipe, so while I'm physically doing that, I can have IoT signals that will help me complete my job.
Adjust it. Yeah.
If I use a
Love it.
HoloLens, if I use a mobile device, so lots of creative use case on empowering the technician
Yeah.
with connected device on that.
Well, this is something that while we're talking about devices, great segue to the last few minutes, which is something that my team's working on. I don't work on Marcio's team anymore, which is a bittersweet
This,
change that we made. And
this
one of the yes, it's kind of a bummer because we're working on a parallel team, a different team that is cross solutions, and we call it Cross Solutions, which is a new team at Microsoft. And Cross Solutions this year, we're taking one of the scenarios that this whole team is doing. They're working on other things like Power Platform, working with SAP on Azure. Like, what are the cool things that you can do in that world? And that's at Microsoft. Those are kind of complicated sales because they're two different teams, two different sets of people, and two different groups. And same thing at the customer and even the consultants. So these are these complex, kind of gnarly type of problems. And connected field services is like that. We came up with a reference architecture. I don't know, like a long time ago, five,
yeah,
6 years ago. And it hasn't really changed. That reference architecture hasn't really changed. And this year we have just taken a deep dive look at is that real and who's using it and what are the best practices and all of that. So that's something that my team has been working on, and we're updating the reference architecture for that, and we're going to release. We're just waiting for legal review right now, so it's a little bit of a preview, which is we're going to release this to GitHub, the reference architecture and the code for this. Now, in the past, when we first had the connected field service, it was pretty basic. Like, here's an IoT problem, and telemetry data that comes out, and then we're using Flow or something like that to detect a problem and create a work order and alert based on, some sort of fixed, piece of data, temperatures over this, that kind of stuff. That's kind of great, but it doesn't solve some of the other more complex issues. So we're calling them right now. As you can see, marketing hasn't really put a spin on this yet. We call it Workflow One. That's Workflow One. This is the out of the box stuff we've been doing for quite some time. We have a lot of customers that are using that. The other one is Workflow 2, which uses anomaly detection, which has been updated inside of this, I think it's called Azure Data Explorer, I think is what it is, which is the anomaly detection engine. It's a cognitive service, and that looks at just a stream of data, and it doesn't have a baseline. It figures out what the baseline should be, and it just says, oh, the bit data spiked up, and it's now down. Or we saw it gradually go up over time, and then it went down. And so it's looking for patterns in the data using this cognitive service. And then you're creating alerts based on that. So I don't have to say, oh, it's, if it's over 70, degrees or 100 RPMs, I can just go, if it's never, like it's at this normal range all the time and all of a sudden it's way outside of that range, that's the model I want to have.
I think this is what customers are looking for, like in moving from the reactive, like even if a connected field service itself alone, we're not going to help you to move. We'll help you, but alone is not everything you need to move from a reactive model to a proactive model. You need more, like we're showing here in the architecture, anomaly detector and some machine learning models too. I think what customers are looking for is not like I receive an alert that this equipment is failing. What they are really looking for is receive an alert that it will sound something like that. There is a 90% chance that this equipment will fail during the following next 2 weeks. So they have time to act on that. Like this is what you're showing. I think it's what enables that. Looks like.
And that's our workflow number 3 that we have in there. So workflow 2 is anomaly detection. And then for us, we're calling it right now workflow number 3, which is looks at that data and does build a machine learning model based on predictions. And what it returns, which is kind of interesting, because we have the alert. This is where we're going with this. Dynamics has this thing called alerts. It comes in as an alert inside of the system. And so what it's able to do, a couple different things. One is, even if it is responded with error, just the error code, not predicted, there is a built-in incident type suggestion and a confidence layer with that incident type suggestion. This is an out-of-the-box function right now. And you train it, you have to give it a little information around what are the different dimensions of the data. Okay, look at the device ID and set, like, look at the temperature and all of this. And then these are the things that feed into that decision. And it basically figures out, after about 50 manual assignments between those, it starts to build now a model. You train it by using it. And so you go in, get those alerts, you convert them to work orders, assign an incident type as part of that process. After you do that 50 times, it now will do this automatically for you. And it will then also show the severity of that. Like, is this a high degree of confidence or a low degree of confidence? Which again helps you with that prioritization of, do I need to take care of this right away? The other piece of data that we're adding.
This is how it helps to better manage the demand, right? Because it's turning proactive. It's choosing a work order template, our instance types. And the appropriate one based on that error code, based on that data signal from the equipment. Like it's a tremendous progress from where we were like some years ago.
Yeah. And then that last one is in this model, and I don't have screenshots for it, but in that last model, one of the things a lot of people don't realize, the way the system works is data that comes out of the Azure machine learning model, out of the payload is what we like to call it, that comes into Dynamics is in a JSON file. So it's basically a text file that it does. And there's some magic that happens inside of Dynamics where it takes that file. This is what that file looks like here in the middle. And it actually, if you click the switch view, it shows you the text version of that file. there's a interpreter that we have on the fly that will take that file in whatever format and deserialize that thing into basically data fields. And so, what you are able to do when you have a machine learning model like this, and what that ML model will give us is what's called remaining useful life. So, it's going to predict the remaining useful life. Like, so this error and that machine, based on the telemetry that we've got, we're saying that that thing is going to happen within a certain period of time. And so, to your point, now I can prioritize that. That remaining useful life is 3 weeks from now. That means I don't have to send somebody out there right now. It's not an emergency. I have to, I'm going to send somebody out there when they're across the street doing some other planned maintenance, or when they're at the customer site and the technician looks at, okay, what else can I fix out while I'm out here? And then they see, here are the low priority ones that have a remaining useful life of, 3 months from now. And so, in that world, it would be ideal if the moment the machine was going to break, I put the belt on. Like that would be I would have, I've gotten the full useful life out of that belt. And then just before it failed, I replaced the belt. Like that would be the most ideal thing. So having that index in yeah, you've maximized the lifetime of that belt asset or whatever, device is going out. And you're using that time and a percentage to basically manage that expectation. So I don't, we're notorious. All of us on this call are very much love to talk about hey, we got an alert and let's go and fix it right now. See how cool this is. And I can see who's closest to it. And that's kind of like really neat to see all this real-time stuff. But if you're a service operator, that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to send somebody out there right now. That means I have to drop other things. That's an expensive work order, right? I have to, I have a person going out there to take care of this right now. What I'd rather do is have a planned maintenance schedule using RSO or this type of technology to kind of go and plan all the routes for the day, and then gonna go, okay, while you're out across the street or next to it, you go across the street and replace that belt. It's supposed to fail next week. And that would be the ideal thing where I don't have a special trip that I have to take out. I'm able to that's really the proactive nature of what we're talking about in this. And so we're going to publish a reference, not just the reference architecture, the code in GitHub should be out in a few weeks, actually. So we've been passing this by customers, and it's pretty cool stuff.
I like this approach. Makes me think that using some ML models, not only to help increase the asset uptime because you're avoiding them to fail, but also maximizing the lifetime of components and parts of that asset. Because you have customers that every year you got to replace the belt, but in fact that you don't need to replace the belt. Is an extra caution that you're replacing every year, because maybe it's between year 1 and 2 that the belt is going to rip. If you have more information about vibration, use time of the asset, how many hours it's running, you can calibrate with more precision, reduce your risk of stopping the equipment, but maximize the use of that part or component. I like that.
So true. Yeah, we've done enough building energy management and facilities management. During COVID, that was the thing that happened a bunch of times. You had customers of ours that were like, hey, can we have these, build time-based maintenance, agreements for products? It's like, yeah, the system does that right out of the box. So every 6 months I go and do an inspection or service. Well, in buildings, when you have nobody in the building and the AC isn't running very much, you don't need every 6 months to go and change the filter. But by contract and obligation, I have to go out and do that. And so these kind of time-based maintenance agreements, we want to get more to that conditions-based kind of model where we're able to look at the conditions and then, service things more appropriately and really use the data to drive the, decision-making. It's really complicated though in that sense. And so that's why we're looking to kind of create a reference architecture and, a design model and some sample code that folks can get in and kind of go, all right, this is a kind of a curated thing from Microsoft. It's,
What's good on the reference architecture as well, it could help our customers, for us to meet our customers where they are. I might have customers who they already invested their IoT strategy on AWS.
Yeah.
Like they don't need necessarily to move their IoT strategy to Azure to
Exactly.
benefit from connected field service approach. But I think the reference architecture helped them to say where you are and what you need to do to meet and extract the full value and benefits for our connected field service story.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I found looking at reference architecture and solution architectures I went through last and looked at about 100 literally different technical architectures for IoT solutions that have been built and deployed. And so many of them don't consider the service application at the other end of that. Like, so to your point, we have many customers on the IoT side that have very sophisticated IoT stuff, and they're very Microsoft centric, but they have, maybe IFS, or they have, ServiceNow, or they're using a different service application as their endpoint, or Power Apps for that matter. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So having, like you said, like this reference architecture, here's like the curated best example of that, but it's a very composable kind of situation where it's like, oh, I don't want to use Azure ML. I'm going to use Snowflake for that. Or I have a different, AI engine that I'm going to use. It's like, great. That's awesome. We can talk about the merits of keeping that or not, but that kind of how to get the data over into Dynamics, how that would respond to the service application. You have a reference for how that would work through the enterprise service bus. So I think it's pretty cool stuff. Lots of fun, eh? All right. Well, that's it. I don't know if you have any parting words of wisdom.
No, I would say thank you very much for having me here. Like I appreciate the conversation, quality conversation. And yeah, I'm excited with what's about to come in terms of our continuous investments on AI. There's a lot of good things, and I like to say that Microsoft has the largest Lego box in the world. That's how I see our products, and I like to combine and use different parts of Microsoft technology to create a better solution on that. So I'm very excited about our ability to continue to create and innovate and bring more blocks to that, but as well as also exciting what are we going to build with all those parts that we have. So exciting moments to be working here.
Sure. It is. It's really cool, isn't it? I love it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all for your time today. And we are ending our broadcast moments. Thank you all for attending. Sorry about the issues at the beginning. We'll make it better. We're getting better. We've applied for marketing money. Right now, this is just the Pierre Holsebus podcast system. But hopefully we'll get some marketing money next year to help with any things. So you guys are awesome. Appreciate the community, all the support that we're getting. Reach out if you've got something you want to talk about or we need to chat about. Thank you all for your time, and love this community. Love this community. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.